a former Jedi who left the Order to serve as Revan's third-in-command during the Mandalorian Wars. It was Meetra Surik, acting on Revan's order, who activated the mass shadow generator which destroyed Malachor 5. Utterly overwhelmed by the echoes of pain and suffering felt through the Force, Meetra, like Nihilus, became a wound in the Force. Yet whereas Nihilus grew more dependent on this energy to survive, Meetra instinctively cut herself off from the Force, allowing the echoes of pain within her to create a distortion field that deafened her to this primordial energy. When it was over, her mind started to block out the truth of what just happened, and her overwhelming sense of guilt made her the only one of Revan's followers to surrender themselves to the Jedi Council. Although many resented her for playing such an important role in this disaster, the greater concern surrounded the echoes emanating from her Force wound. Though some wanted to forgive and study her, others, like Jedi Master Atris, believed her past dark side leanings could not be forgiven. Yet what most concerned them was that her condition, inflicted from a dark side event, may represent a threat to the very Order itself, as Jedi were taught to give in to the will of the Force, while Meetra was entirely devoid of its influence, blocking it out with echoes of pain and suffering. Therefore, Meetra Surik was sentenced to exile, causing her to leave Republic space for the Outer Rim. Exiled for years, she eventually heard about Jedi being killed and returned to Republic space, only to be attacked by Darths Sion. However, she survived the encounter thanks to Kreia, who rescued Meetra, established a Force bond, and became her new master, seeking to retrain her in the ways of the Force. This would be significant, as Meetra was already cut off from the will of the Force, meaning she would be able to channel this energy without being bound to its influence. Kreia was eager to train this new student, as she was yet another wound in the Force, who, unlike Nihilus, seemed to possess the exact qualities needed to accomplish her greater plans. This Force bond also allowed Kreia to regain her own powers, increasing in strength alongside her apprentice. In addition to training under Kreia, Meetra sought out other surviving Jedi, and in the process gathered a group of loyal companions, many of whom were Force-sensitive, and/or formerly served under Revan, including the pilot Atton Rand, the engineer Baldur, the Achani handmaiden Brianna, the Jedi disciple Mikkel, the Mandalorian bounty hunter Mira, the apprentice of Nihilus Visamar, the Mandalorian leader Kendaris Ordo, also known as Mandalore the Preserver, the utility droid T3M4, the crime boss droid Goto, and assassin droid HK-47. Possessing a natural ability to create Force bonds, it was through Meetra's connection to those around her that she could once again learn to channel the Force while remaining cut off from its call. Surviving an encounter with Darths Sion at the Paragus mining facility, Meetra had another near miss with Sion on Korriban, where she sought to liberate a captured Jedi only to find her already dead. She then faced the agents of Darth Nihilus on Onderon and its moon Duxon, where Sith-allied rebels fought a civil war to overthrow the Republic-allied queen. While helping the Loyalists defend their government, Kreia took advantage of the situation to start the final steps of her grand plan by saving the enemy general's second-in-command, Colonel Tobin, in order to inform him that the last of the Jedi were gathered on the planet Telos 4, when in reality only Atris and her Jedi Academy were present. She spoke this lie, knowing full well he would relay the information to Darth Nihilus, who then targeted the planet. Meanwhile, Meetra finished helping her allies on Onderon and Duxon before meeting with several of the last surviving Jedi Masters on Dantooine. At this meeting, the Jedi were appalled by her ability to wield the Force without being bound to its will, as it meant she was affected by Malachor in the same way as Nihilus, though to a lesser degree, meaning she was slowly draining the life force of her followers and those around her to fuel her powers. As a wound in the Force, Meetra fed off those she killed and recruited to her cause, made worse by her talent for Force bonds, ensuring a steady supply of companions to consume. Therefore, the Jedi sentenced her once again to exile, but this time they would sever her connection to the Force entirely, prompting Kreia to emerge and save her by draining the Masters of their powers. Ever eager to prove her philosophy correct by demonstrating that Meetra Surik was thriving even without a direct connection to the Force, it was possible Kreia had some hope these last Jedi would listen to the exile and try to learn from her experiences, but this was shattered when they proved unwilling to move beyond their old beliefs. Seeing them strike out against her apprentice, Kreia used the opportunity to give the Masters a final lesson and choice, wielding Force Drain to extract their life energies, thereby putting them in a similar position to Meetra Surik at the Battle of Malachor. Yet while the exile survived her crisis by cutting herself off from the Force, the Jedi were so dependent on it they could not do the same and died from the attack. Leaving Meetra unconscious on the ground, Kreia, now Darths Traya once more, left to meet with Atris on Telos, causing the exile to follow when she recovered. Though Traya was no longer there, Surik confronted Atris, who by this point had fully embraced the dark side, but convinced her to return to the light. Atris then revealed Traya was waiting on Malachor, yet before the exile could depart, her former master arranged for a final confrontation with Darth Nihilus in the Battle of Telos IV. Boarding his ship the Ravager, Meetra Surik and her companions defeated the Dark Lord, thanks to a distraction caused by his apprentice Visamar, who exploited her force bond and mental connection to her master. After his death, Visamar took his mask and looked upon his face, before the body disappeared in a burst of dark side energy. Traveling to Malachor, Meetra learned Traya was once again Dark Lord of the Sith, with Darth Sion under her command. Though Meetra defeated Sion several times, his abilities meant he kept coming back from the dead, determined to prove himself worthy of Traya's approval until the exile finally convinced him he could not win, and to at last let go of his torturous existence, becoming one with the Force. Arriving at the heart of the Trayus Academy, Meetra Surik found Darth Traya, who was ready to enact the final part of her plan. Having studied the exile during her training, Traya came to the realization that after using Meetra Surik to wipe out the remaining Jedi and Sith, she could kill her on Malachor, where her Force wound originated, thus unleashing the Force echoes within her so they might clash with the echoes already present on the planet, thereby creating a reverberating effect that could be felt across the galaxy, deafening all living beings from the will of the Force, thereby achieving her greatest dream. Yet much to Traya's surprise, she actually grew to admire and respect the exile, considering her the greatest student she ever taught, as she was the living embodiment of all her ideals. Therefore, now that the time had finally come to complete her mission, Traya felt prepared to face both victory and defeat. In the end, Meetra Surik won the duel and proved more powerful, thereby ending Traya's plan to deafen the galaxy to the Force. Yet even in defeat, Traya was satisfied, as it meant she was ultimately proven correct in all her beliefs, since the most powerful person to emerge from both the Jedi and Sith orders was someone who could channel the Force but was free from its influence. In the end, she truly loved Meetra Surik and was willing to sacrifice the future of the entire galaxy to see her succeed. Before she died, Traya revealed to the exile that her followers would rebuild the Jedi Order, but she must leave it all behind and follow the path of Revan to face the true Sith waiting in the unknown regions. Informing the exile that she knew about Revan and his fight against the true Sith, it meant that perhaps there was yet another layer to all Traya had accomplished, as her motivations for enacting this grand plan may not only have been to liberate the galaxy from the will of the Force, but also to cut off the true Sith from their source of power, thereby preventing their inevitable invasion. Thus ended the Dark Wars and reign of the Sith Triumvirate, yet their legacy lived on in many ways throughout the years that followed, with Darth Traya's teachings continuing to have a great influence on Meetra Surik, who went on to find Revan and ultimately helped him defeat the true Sith Emperor. As for Darth Nihilus, his story became legendary throughout the galaxy, seeing his mask and holocron become precious relics of great value, with his holocron eventually ending up in the possession of Darth Krayt by 137 ABY. Though Darth Sion did not attain the same level of fame and status as Traya and Nihilus, he was nonetheless a remarkably powerful Sith Lord, worshipped as a god by a Keldor darkside cult on the planet Doran. A special thanks to all those who contribute to Civilization X, like Tio the Iron Banker, Sir Xavier Defender of the Flame, Eden Gruer Spicy Sky Frugron, and Captain Marvel DMB MSC. If you'd like to help the channel, please give a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and click on the links below, or else go to patreon.com/civilizationx, where you can gain early access to videos, vote on future content, and watch the Patreon-only series, Heroes of Lore and Legend.